Happy holidays. I am Scott Stanfield, and this is the Modern Longevitarian. And I want to say happy holidays. Thank you for being here today. And if you find yourself alone this Christmas, I would encourage you to join in to the Jolly Gone Wild, which is part of the Spirituality Gone Wild. There's going to be a select few hour by hour show hosts coming in, co-creators coming in to keep people company, to create this Zoom environment for you to come in and learn. And just my section is going to be on connection, which is one of the pillars of being a modern longevitarian. The bulk of this is going to be hosted by none other than Steve Weber of the American Gumption Morning Show. So I highly encourage you to tune in to that. This show is also brought to you by my friends over at Redmond, which make real salt and other things such as bentonite clay and things like that. It's a salt that's mined here in Utah, and it has so many micronutrients in it, and it's so good for you. I highly encourage you to check out. I have done multiple shows on salt with Daryl Boschard from Redmond Salt. Also, Dr. David Brownstein was on last Friday, so just 4 shows ago. And today's episode is number 52. So if this was a podcast, this would be 1 year into this, but this is like a podcast on steroids because I'm doing 5 shows a week or every weekday. Not tomorrow, not on holidays, right? Not on the 24th and 25th of December. And I didn't do any on Thanksgiving or on Black Friday. Not that Black Friday's a holiday, right? But anyway, let's get into starting with the gut. First off, we have a comment in. Let's see who we have coming in. Let's see here. Debbie G, founder of Spirituality Gone Wild. She's off into meetings, but thanks for giving me a comment here, Debbie. So just want to say I'm so happy to be part of that team and all things that are going on with Spirituality Gone Wild. New announcements coming up. And there's so many great things coming for the new year with this organization. It's going to be super cool. So I spent a lot of time this morning putting together the Start With Your Gut information here. Now, where do we start? Well, that's a funny thing. Start with your gut. Where do we start with the gut? And there's buzzwords like leaky gut, microbiome, probiotics, prebiotics, right? Which is a new thing, prebiotic fiber that's really kind of coming out. And just, and then let's add another couple new terms to the mix, postbiotics and which are byproducts of the fermentation process carried out by the probiotics in the intestine. So there's you feed them with fiber. Then there's the actual gut bacteria, the probiotics. And then what they produce, like short chain fatty acids, is the postbiotics. Now there is another term because we talk about microbiome, but we don't always understand that there is actually an ecosystem or ecological communities that include bacteria, protists, fungi, and viruses that all live. So we live in humans and mammals and animals all live in symbiotic world with viruses, right? So what happens is, could be COVID or these, the swine flu or the bird flu is when the flus that normally live with them start coming over to our human organism and we're not adapted to it. We don't have the antibodies to fight it. Our immune system's weak in that particular situation. Could be for COVID. If you believe that's a virus, or if you don't, it doesn't matter. But anyway, the system that happens is that there are viruses that live with us all the time. And when our immune system can't fight those, or we're weak for stress or, eating bad or any of those type of things, they will rise up and then you get sick. All right. That's really what happens. So this word is called microbiota, which is I got from this book that I do recommend, and I'll put in the show notes, Fiber Fueled by Dr. Will B. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. And he says it goes by Dr. B, but there's so many things that you can learn in here. I learned about short chain fatty acids, microbiota. There must be balance in the ecosystem, balance in your gut, balance in your ecosystem. A balance, to use a little Star Wars, is a balance in the force, right? When the microbiota gets out of balance, evil can rise up and start winning the war. So this is a great quote. This is pretty interesting stuff, right? So all disease begins in the gut. And somebody just gave me a big hug. A big hug. Thank you. I don't know who it is, but because it just says Facebook user. All right. So let's see. Steve Green, 24 pounds of pizza is not bad. Pizza can be your health friend. There's pizza for every diet, a pizza for every life goal. Eat more pizza, but eat the right pizza for you. Steve, I agree. I've made some really healthy pizzas. I made some unhealthy pizzas and had unhealthy pizzas in my day. I've been keto for 5 years. Obviously, fathead doughs come out where I can stay in the diet, but that's high in dairy. Then I said there's carnivore style where you can make a pizza crust out of a chicken breast, one egg, and Parmesan cheese. Made plenty of those in my day as well. And then also, like companies like Quest are coming out with pizza that I actually, for the very first time, had that yesterday. Ironically, we wanted something easy. The kids wanted Annie's organic cheese pizza. I happened to sitting next to it in the freezer section was a Quest pizza. I bought that and I had that for dinner last night. Now, did I also have a smoothie? I did. I took my salad, put it all in the blender, and made a smoothie, and had that as well. So I didn't skip out on the fiber, which is the prebiotic needed to feed my gut microbiome. And there's lots of fiber in that Quest pizza because you need that to cancel out the carbs, so it's not a high carbohydrate meal. So with that, but anyway, all disease begins in the gut. It's a quote attributed to Hippocrates, the Greek physician, nearly 2,500 years ago. All disease begins in the gut. Now think about that. That's what he said 2,500 years ago, before Christ. Before this is a long time ago. Some of us may be able to pick up this book, Fiber Fuel, right, by Dr. Will, and increase your plant diversity. That's all you need to do because you have balance in your gut, and you're going to just increase it. Now, what they recommend for a true the plant diversity to build a true super strong bacteria or probiotics in your body is 30 different plants a week. And everything for you, yeah, maybe you that everything's going to be all hunky dory, right? Some others, that may not be the case. And because there's different things. Some of us don't realize this. And I've talked about this on previous shows that we get the download from our moms in two different ways from at birth and right after birth when it comes to getting the download of the microbiome. And on top of that, each generation we're showing has a third less diversity in our gut microbiome, the bacteria in our guts. Now, just years ago, just a handful of years ago, that all of this microbiome stuff was all actually referred to as junk DNA. They didn't even know what it was, right? So this is really crazy. And there's so many things that actually we do that set off freaking nuclear bombs in our guts that kill this microbiome. And then I'll get back to the download from mom. So what happens is that we take antibiotics, right? Kills bacteria, just wipes it out. Even things like NSAIDs or what Aleve, Advil, things like that, wipes out certain bacteria in our gut. There's so many things that we do. That what about chlorine? What does chlorine do in your pool? In the right thing, what does it do? It kills the bacteria and the algae and all the things in there that keep the pool green. It keeps the water clear. Well, what's in our water that we drink? Chlorine, fluoride, those type of things, right? Those things kill those type of things, right? So what are we doing to ourselves to in the effort to keep ourselves clean? We're not actually drinking spring water like we were years ago that actually has dirt in it and microbiome in it and things like that. We're scrubbing our vegetables, triple washing them. We're getting all the microbiome off of those things. We're sanitizing our hands. We're not exchanging these things anymore that like we used to do. And so we're limiting ourselves with this. Now, how do we get the download initially? At birth, there's two ways. You get it through the vaginal canal as you're being born, right? Look at that. As you're being born, right? You're getting a download from mom, from her, the canal that you're coming through of the microbiome. Now, if you're born C-section like I was, back in 1972, I didn't get the download that way. What download I got was through breastfeeding. Now, if you're born C-section and you're not breastfed, you're probably more than losing a third of the microbiome than the previous generation. I've also noticed, and this is an informal thing that I've noticed, that people that are closer to coming from other places around the world, like specifically Europe, Like my wife's only the third generation from Europe. I'm at least 17 generations from Europe, and or seven on one side of my family, right? Because I date back to I'm a descendant of the Mayflower, Isaac Allerton, the rebel of the Mayflower. I'm a descendant of his. But also the closest I can check on my mom's side is seven generations back, where not George, but Caney, Kaney, my mother's maiden name it comes from Ireland, right? So the closer people are to an old world or an old society that they stick to the old ways, they actually are healthier that I see and eat anything they want and stay at a slimmer weight than they would be if someone who has not done that. So what happens is our microbiome, our microbiota is degrading over generation after generation after generation. We're having C-sections and things like that. And we're also not breastfeeding as many people as they've had. So luckily my mom breastfed me. And so I got some of the download, but I didn't get it through the C-section. So what happens when your microbiota gets out of balance, the force out of balance, your gut is out of balance? Well, one of the things that could happen and is that you can get candida or a yeast or a Candida albicans, which is a yeast overgrowth, right? And so what happens with that, there's so many things, and I'm going to go over some of the symptoms that you could be having, some symptoms that I've been experiencing, and why I'm right in the middle. This is Biohack Whack Wednesday, and I'm a human guinea pig. I test all these things on myself, and right now I'm in the middle of a 14-day Candida Cleanse, and I'll go over the product that I have. There's no affiliate links for any of that stuff. There will be an affiliate link for the Viber Fuel book for you to go and check that and get that up if you want to. But and maybe a couple other things I can put some links in to help, as a Christmas present to me and the family, to help buy a couple bags of groceries, right, or something like that. But anyway, let's talk about this. We keep yeast overgrowth, right? And I dropped my papers, and so they're a little out of order here. So here's some symptoms that you can have. Number one is oral thrush, and I'd actually had that about 10 years ago. I took my last round of antibiotics that I did probably 11 years ago, and I got thrush, right? And so that was the last time that I actually ever took any antibiotics. And so oral thrush you can get if you have that. You could be tired and you can have fatigue. You can also have reoccurring genital problems such as jock itch or urinary tract infections. Also, yeast infections for women as well. Digestive issues such as gas, bloating, diarrhea, and/or constipation. So it can go either way. Sinus infections. I have had chronic sinus infections over my entire life, dating back even to when I was a very young kid. And I told my mom I had a headache. She said I was too young to have a headache, and come to find out I had a sinus infection. So up until recently, I have been struggling with that for a long, long time. So, Michael, oral thrush is something, especially babies get this a lot of times, but it's a yeast infection in your throat and your tongue is what oral thrush is. And so so if you get that, like a coating on your tongue or those type of things, a lot of us a white coating when that happens, that's what oral thrush is. Skin and nail fungal infections, joint pain. Another one is athlete's foot, brain fog, and feeling hungover in the morning, even without drinking, or groggy, and that's where the fatigue comes in, the tiredness, those type of things. So what happens is that all of these can happen from yeast overgrowth. There's also been a connection between cancer and yeast infections or yeast overgrowth. So again, you saw the disclaimer in the beginning. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical information. I just go do your own research and see where you are with these type of things. Now, you would think that someone like me, a modern longevitarian, has been tracking this stuff for over 15 years. And actually, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, taking spirulina to the racetrack with blenders and plugging them into the generator to make smoothies with blue-green algae in it, to help perform better at a racetrack in efforts to become, the best kart driver I could. You would think that I would have tracked some of these things down. I've been doing this, right? Because there's no shortcuts to eliminating an overgrowth, a yeast overgrowth, or a yeast infection in your gut. There's no shortcut to balancing out your gut microbiome. I actually heard Dave Asprey, Bulletproof Radio podcast, one day talk about as he was developing his prebiotic fiber formula that he actually took that for 2 years, and how far he grew his diversity, his gut microbiome diversity for bacteria, his probiotic diversity, right? Over 2 year period, right? So this is not, there's no shortcut to this, right? This is a long game, right? But that's the great thing about this. Being a longevitarian, we are playing the long game. Okay. So what can you do? You can change your diet. And this is the first place you're going to start, right? High sugar fruits, bananas, dates, raisins, grapes, mango are the first place to start. Take out grains that contain gluten, wheat, rye, barley, and spelt. Certain deli meats and farm raised fish, take those out of your diet. Refined oils and fats, canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, things like that. There's another thing. When I drink wine, especially when I drink sake, my wife and I love sake, and especially when you're in the mountains and it's like 22 degrees like it was this morning. I'm not drinking sake in the morning, but at night, instead of having, a Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc, or even like room temperature or 60-degree, Cabernet or Merlot, or our favorite, Nero Diavolo from Sardinia, we, we would have hot sake. You buy it and we'd heat it up and we would, not boil it because we don't cook the alcohol of it. I get so itchy when I have just even my first couple of cups of that. My whole body gets itchy. Especially my torso, my upper body. And if you notice, for the last couple of weeks on the show, I've been kind of scratching myself. I've been itchy because I've been going through this cleanse, right? And so those are things that are happening. So taking sugar and things like that out of your diet are going to be that, the first step that you're going to do for this. The second thing would be take probiotics. Hippocrates probably prescribed raw apple cider vinegar. A 2011 study found that capric acid also is effective in treating some candida infection. So let's back up a little bit. One of my I have two favorite probiotics. One is called Just Thrive. It's a spore-based probiotic that the bacteria is actually protected by a spore. And if you're in the food business, you understand that that probiotics are your bacteria can actually protect itself when it's been heated up or it's been cooled, right? So that's food safety, right? The bacteria on there turns into a spore, and then our body can handle spores better than it can handle bacteria, bad bacteria, right? So Just Thrive is a really cool one, and it's spore based, so it makes it through the gut. Anything that has to be refrigerated is supposed to say that it can't make it through the gut because it gets to 98 degrees inside of there and then it dies. But another one I've actually found that works really good for me, which is ironic to that refrigerated one, is this one here, which is the BioK. And so BioK is super cool. It's a fermented dairy product. So it's not plant-based. It has some whey added into it, but it has this one jar here has 50 billion this is a concentrate on this of the probiotics. And when I'm not feeling good, have diarrhea, things like that, it is something that actually has helped me turn that around in a really fast time. Raw apple cider vinegar, is something that has been around for thousands of years. And you got to if you're going to get raw apple cider vinegar, it makes sure raw means it's not pasteurized, and it has the mother in it. They even have this now made by White House at Walmart, right? That is actually because the traditional brand name that we've all used over the years is Bragg's, but you can get it for a couple dollars less at Whole Foods, and it's made by White House. Has been around for 100 or so years. So let's see. Michael's got a couple comments coming in. Let's see what we got here, and then we'll get back into what we can do here. So all right. I drink a lot of cranberry juice, beets, orange, apples. I use olive oil. My wife is Italian Mexican, so I have to watch my weight. Yeah, I get it, Michael. It's but the thing for me, my wife is New York Italian. She made a lot of pasta, a lot of pizza. Was vegetarian. People's staple was to give me pasta because I only as a kid ate pasta on Wednesday night, church spaghetti night, and so I until I got my macros, and I started fasting 9 years ago. I couldn't control my weight, and then now that in combination with keto, getting my macros in place have been the best place to do. So yeah, raw apple cider vinegar has so many benefits. I sprinkle on salads. I even put it in bone broth to get the balance with a little acid in there. You could put it on other fatty meats and things like that if you're doing tacos and that type of stuff. I mean, you got to think about the things that have vinegar in it to balance these things out. Mustard has vinegar in it, so when you look at creating a dish, right, from a foodie standpoint, mustard does, ketchup does, mayonnaise does. All of these things have a balance to them, and vinegar or an acid like lemon or lime adds this balance and brightness to a dish. So you can use raw apple cider vinegar in a different way than you would normally would, especially if you're eating a lot of fat, if you're in a maintenance stage of keto. All right, so take probiotics. I, you know, if you find yourself with a yeast overgrowth and you're suffering from any of those type of things, these are the places to start. Number one, eliminate sugars from your diet. Look at other candida diets, food to avoid, and things like that. Number two, take probiotics. Number three, look at raw apple cider vinegar, and then understand caprylic acid, right? Which is actually this stuff right here, right? So MCT oil, which is actually comes from, you can see that comes from coconuts, right? So that's a 2011 study that this could help fight yeast and things like that. So you can put this in your smoothies. Now you got to start slow on this if you've never taken it before, because it will cause, as Dave Asprey says, disaster pants, give you diarrhea, right? Your body can't handle it. So start slow and work your way up to this. The most I've ever done at one time is 2 tablespoons. I put this in my coffee. I make bulletproof coffee with, on occasion, only if I need a swift kick in the pants. Today I had black coffee. I didn't need a swift kick. So it's something that I do as a splurge on my Sunday feast days and those type of things. So it's something that can help as well, because it says that this is, when you look in the ingredients, this is exactly what is in here. So it has a C8, C10, C12. And I look for brands that are organic and that are 100% coconut if you're looking at this. And normally in glass, this is a gift from a friend of mine, but normally in glass jars because I don't like having plastic. Every piece of plastic ever made, right? Every piece of plastic ever made is still here on the planet. Think about that. All right. So let's talk about another thing, is that adding fiber to your diet, right? Which is the plant diversity, fiber fueled, all of those type of things, right? That are super important. If you're juicing, you need to make smoothies. Take the same ingredients and make a smoothie out of it. Juicing actually takes the fiber out, right? Which is great, has great antioxidants and benefits and all those different things. But that's what we're not looking for. Make it into a smoothie. Did you hear what I said? Last night I took my salad. So I put water, right? About 10 ounces of water. I put lemon, half a lemon, the whole, like not even the juice, but the lemon in there to get the fiber from that. 4 cups of salad. I could put a little bit of avocado, between a quarter to half avocado in there. And then I put a quarter cup of blueberries all in the blender, and then blended it all up and made a smoothie out of it and drank that. Sometimes if I want it to taste a little less bitter, I'll add a little stevia to it, which is, or I will also add a little chocolate baking cocoa powder to this to give it a little chocolate flavor to it, right? So there's different ways you can do this, but if you're juicing, add the fiber in and make it into a smoothie. I love our Vitamix, right? And so it takes some heavy reps on that, and it will blend it. Here's another thing that's really interesting as well about this. Some people have gone and had fecal transplants. Yep, stool transplants from people who are healthy, right? Now here's the key to this. If you have a bad diet, you don't have fiber, don't have any of those type of things, you've been feeding, the microbiome to grow a certain way in your body. If you don't change your diet and you do a fecal transplant, how long do you think it is before those things you planted die, right? And the weeds come back and overgrow, right? So balance that out the right way. But the standard of care for recurrent C. diff infections, which up until this point were incurable pretty much, is C. diff. It was just you're written off, right? This is actually how they're curing C. diff, is with fecal transplants. So this is how important your gut microbiota is, the balance of this. It's so important. Where I've read studies and stories about people who have C. diff that they turned around almost immediately, like the next day or within a week, when they were on death's door, right? On the doormat of death, and then they get a fecal transplant and things turn around for them. And then you can do a cleanse, right? And there's also another book. I don't have it here with me. It's stored away from when I was in California, that where it was like a 90-day plan. You could do things like change your diet and take all these antifungal medicines, where you could even do natural, or you can do other things, drink certain teas like Partiarco tea, which is a bark from South America, trees in South America, and the Amazon that helps with this type of stuff. And typically when I've added in Partiarco is trying to combat this, because I've always thought I've had this underlying problem, which has been proven over the last week that 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 this is that I do have a candida overgrowth, because I'm going through some of these die-off symptoms, and I'm go here in a second. But do a cleanse. And why did I start doing a cleanse? It's because I'm working at home. Been working at home. Been furloughed since March 22nd. Been here since the last week in March, and we're now in December. And back in November, and I very rare I put shoes on just to go outside of the house. I'm barefoot all the time, and you've even seen videos of me being barefoot in the snow, right? And all of a sudden, I got athlete's foot, and I was like, "Where in the world is this coming from?" And I started doing research, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, so this is another chronic sinus infections, itchy, and athlete's foot. I'm like, okay, so this could be it. So what if I do a cleanse? So I went to the Whole Foods, and I bought this here. It's a 2-part cleanse by Renew Life, and it has a capsule you take in the morning on an empty stomach. Candy Smart is it, and then also this one here, Renew Life. They have a liquid version of this, which basically has the same ingredients in both of them, but one's in liquid form and one is in dry supplement form in a capsule. It does have Partiarco extract in here. Multiple things. I'll read through real quick. So it has you will use ursley leaf extract, garlic bulb extract, neem leaf, caprylic acid, grapefruit seed extract, Partiarco bark extract, barberry bark extract, olive leaf extract, and so then basically the same thing is in this, but in liquid form, and so very similar. So this was so very similar in the liquid form as well. And you take a little bit of this in the morning, or both of these in the morning and at night on an empty stomach before you go to bed. That's what I've been doing. And then I started also understanding that because Lugol's iodine, Dr. David Brownstein podcast I did about that, did my story about taking iodine with my detox and having acne in my forehead in my mid 50s, all those different things, right? And so basically what I want to do, Michael, is I wanted to get the underlying issue that was causing all these other things, go to the root of the cause, and really focus on fixing my gut microbiome. But I'd be happy to talk to you after the show. I would love to hear what you have. But understanding that all of us are individuals. So I started taking upping my Lugol's iodine, and then I started having some die-off symptoms. And the die-off symptoms that anybody could have would be nausea, right? Because these give you could be like flu like symptoms: nausea, headache, fatigue, dizziness, which is one of the things I got, right? Swollen glands, bloating, gas, constipation, or diarrhea, increased joint or muscle pain, elevated heart rate, chills, cold feeling in your extremities. I do Wim Hof. I'm always kind of cold, so I probably could have got this, but I don't know. I'd adjust really well to that. Body itchiness, hives, and rashes. 100%. This is me right here, with also skin breakouts. And so sweating, fever, sweating more at night. Yes. Reoccurring. I don't have a vagina, so recurring vaginal, but prostate and sinus infections. And so I've had skin breakouts, body itches, hives, rashes, headache, fatigue, dizziness. So I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm taking more Lugol's iodine, and I'm upping my probiotics, and all of a sudden I started having all these die-off symptoms. And then it's like, what's the next step when you start having die-off symptoms? Okay. You basically you need to support your liver. So I had this that I've had for a couple months, right? When I had my eczema breakout, to support my liver before I started doing coffee enemas. So I started taking this. And the big thing is this is milk thistle. And so I started supporting my liver that way. I did do 2 coffee enemas as well, to help support my liver and production of glutathione, which it stimulates it up to 600% when you do a coffee enema, right? For that. And here's the thing: the first word is Oh, Michael, no, this is what I live for, man. I love this, man. This is what I'm doing. Is like, how can I change my genetic expression without actually understanding what it is and the root cause of it, and do this right? Because if not, I'm destined to have the same thing my parents and my grandparents had, which is cancer in their 50s. Right. So I got to go through this now in my 40s if I want to extend my health span out and my cancer out to 85, 95, 105. Right. So don't feel bad for me, man. This is awesome. This is what I'm doing, and I'm sharing this so other people can learn. Right. Um, and so we can talk about the connection between liver and eczema and cirrhosis and psoriasis and those type of things later. But let me get back to this, right? The first thing they say when you read about, or do your research on candida and die-off symptoms is that you need to pump the brakes, right? And we need to pump the brakes from time to time, but I'm more of this like, damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead kind of guy, right? Where I'm going to keep going, right? And I'm going to go even faster. So how can I even go faster? What can I do to? That's why the coffee enemas came in, right? And so it's because I wanted to start increasing my body's ability to get the toxins out that were causing the rashes and the fatigue, the dizziness, the itchiness, all those type of things, and still keep taking the cleanse, right? And still keep taking the iodine and doing all that type of stuff, right? And so I can keep going and get it over with and start then adding in fiber, right? From the book, right? So plant diversity, right? And those type of things and the longevity diet and that type of stuff. So I can then get to where I want to go faster, right? That's the whole thing for me. So when it comes to importance in our body, there are three things, right? And by the way, Lugol's iodine has been shown to kill fungus up to in 90 seconds, right? So it's really it's very strong antimicrobial. I'm struggling with my words today, but antifungal, it kills it up to 90 seconds. So I've upped my intake to that. I'm probably taking about 50 milligrams of of Lugol's a day mixed in water 3 times a day. Right. So almost every glass of water I'm having something in it. And I'll get to the second thing that's in there that I just started yesterday that actually changed this. And I'm nowhere near as itchy as I was before. And I'm getting there right now. Number one is water, right? Obviously, we need water. But what I found out is, and number two is salt, and then number three is sulfur. Now, there's no mistaking the importance of sulfur, right? Dr. Terry Walls, who put her MS in remission, changed her diet to paleo principles and would eat 3 cups of vegetables a day from 3 categories. So 9 cups of vegetables a day, right? One of those being green leafy, the other bright colored, and the other sulfur based vegetables, right? And so what happens is that the other piece of the puzzle is that sulfur is this building block in our bodies, right? That allows us to produce things like glutathione, which is a mother of all antioxidants. And so, and it goes into these pathways like we talked about yesterday, like with instance for NRF2 or NRF2 pathways and those type of things where we're working on this NAD plus pathways and those type of things and building those because those decline over time. So could it be that the reason that I'm struggling with all these things is that I'm sulfur deficient and that when I started taking sulfur yesterday in the form of MSM. Now I do have 2 types of sulfur. Well, I have sulfur vegetables. I have garlic and onions and those type of vegetables that are in the house. And I do a lot of raw garlic that helps, right? And then also I have 2 types of supplements that in our house that we do that for sulfur. One of them I stopped taking because it actually has a very bad smell associated with it. It's called DMSO, sold as a solvent, and I don't take that anymore, even though I feel better with it because it's like a repellent for everybody around me. And when you're in quarantine, that's good. But when you want to give your 13-year-old daughter a hug or hang out with your kids or your wife or your family or friends, right? Even if you have a mask on, you're going to smell like either raw garlic or it makes me smell like sour milk. And so those are things. So I didn't do that, but we had floating around here some MSM. Some people take this for joints, right? So and so what happens is that I started taking MSM, And I took, you can take up to about about 5,000 milligrams a day, depending on what you read and all those type of things. And so I started taking that and almost immediately felt better. And I'm like, wow, what's going on here? Even though I'm taking baking soda baths that had, bentonite clay in it from Redmond or any of those type of things, the thing that made me feel better was when I really got sulfur, right? And so it's it's a super important. Now it supports internal antioxidant production, such as the mother of all, glutathione. So here's the thing, right? Some of us, are all of us are in different places, right? We first have to start off with where we are at mentally, our mindset. What can we wrap our mind around when it comes to all of these things, right? If you think that you got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but you're a night owl, your mindset's really messed up and you're really not going to get the best sleep that you can get. Right. Also with water, some people just don't even think about drinking water, or they hate the taste of water and all those type of things. If you think you can eat high amounts of sugar or breads and pastas and things like that, and you can be healthy, then that's fine. Right? You got to start where your mindset is, right? And our body, and then our body, will adjust to those type of things, right? And so, but some of us may be in a place where you have this underlying for years or decades, maybe almost most of your life, right? Because we are we are handed down not only the genetics, but we're handed down from mom a microbiome. So if your mom has health problems, you're most likely going to have health problems because your genes are going to express themselves because you eat the same way, you feed your microbiome the same way your parents did. So therefore it grows the same way. You handle stress the same way. You have the same emotional intelligence. You make money the same way. You're exposed to the same amount of toxins and all those different things, right? And so, oh, by the way, Michael, when you're saying stay hydrated, I read yesterday that if anybody, not you, but if anybody is sulfur deficient, will never be hydrated because your body needs sulfur first before it would actually hydrate. So it's so important. And so so important. So anyway, long story short is that where you need to start in your journey in repairing your gut or fixing your gut or bolstering up your microbiome, your microbiota, your whole force within inside of you is in a different spot. And like for me, I had to back up and go, and now I'm doing it because where did this athlete's foot come from? Right. And I'm not even wearing shoes like I would. I wore wingtips 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Right. And did not have that. And now I do standing here. So what caused it? Right. What is going on? And so I just had to back up and go, what if I just did this cleanse and see where it takes me? Then it takes me down the road, and I start having the rashes, the itchiness, the fogginess, and all those different things. So then what do I do? Damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead, right? And what do I need to do? Add in a couple coffee enemas to stimulate glutathione. What else can I do there? Oh, sulfur. Maybe I'm deficient on sulfur, right? And so I just really started going down this road, right? And really looking at this. And I'm feeling better than I have in a couple weeks, right? Since I started doing this. And so we all start in a different place. And I encourage you to find out where your starting point is. It may not be as simple as adding in plant diversity to your diet because you may be in a better place. You may have food allergies, and these allergies could be coming from a histamine intolerance, right? And it could be coming from a different place. It could be the fact that you're actually allergic to something, or it could be something covered up and camouflaged by histamine intolerance. And you may be like I do, eat a lot of foods that are high in histamine or actually release histamine. And because you're sitting here going, oh, wait a minute, I need fermented foods because they have probiotics in them. Well, they're also on high because they're aged, right? They're aged, they are high in histamine. So anything that has a lot of age on it, even if it sits inside of your refrigerator for a long time as a leftover, has higher histamine than it was the day you made it, right? So things that are high in histamine, and this wasn't part of the plan. This is I'm just riffing this here. Would be like processed meats, right? Aged cheeses, wines do. Avocados are high in histamine, right? That's a staple of my diet a lot of times, right? A lot of those things. A charcuterie board with aged cheese and brined olives, and with some wine, right? And then what about being having up to 2 avocados a day, being keto, right? Okay, it's low in net fiber, right? Or net carbs, high in fiber, low in net carbs, high in healthy fats. Avocado oil, cooking with that because it's good with high heat. Switching from that, from these other refined oils over to avocado oil. And now I'm like adding all these histamine things in there. Then you're going, okay, I'm gonna have some yogurt. It's aged, right? And then I'm going to have some kimchi. It's aged. I'm going to have sauerkraut. It's aged, right? And so what happens is that, and then you go, wait a minute, how do you make raw apple cider vinegar? It's aged as well, right? So all of these things you could be, I'm telling you, put in your diet, right, that have probiotics in it and beneficial bacterias and all these things that may have been inscribed for hundreds or thousands of years, right, from different cultures over the time. Raw apple cider vinegar comes from Greece. And then kimchi comes from where? It comes from Korea. Where does sauerkraut come from? Which is cabbage, right? It's from Germany, right? You look at all the different things, like all the condiments that have vinegar in them, that have all these things. Tomatoes are high in histamine as well. Ketchup, tomato sauce, all these type of things, right? So you start looking at all these things. That maybe your problem may be something like histamine, or it could be a yeast overgrowth. It could be the fact that mom didn't give a good download to you in the birthing process, right? And it's no fault of your own and no fault of hers because she didn't know, and they didn't even know this back when I was a kid, right? Or when I was being born, that this could happen. Today, what they're doing is that if somebody's going to have a C-section, they put a sponge in the vaginal canal to collect the bacteria so they can then download it, wipe the kid down with it after it has been born to give them the download, right? They're doing things now that they didn't do even 5, 10, 15, or 48 years ago to help make sure that microbiota is really passed down. This is super, super informational stuff, right? That we're learning over this time. And so, Elaine, thank you for the comment. Yes, and I'm glad it is working for you and you're really enjoying it. So, this is, um, and yep, Michael, you're correct that it works for some, might not work for others. We're all in different places, man. We're all in different places, right? And so what may work, somebody can just go, you know, you know, all these things may not work for each other, right? So I'm going to wrap this up here, and I want to wish everybody a happy Christmas. And there are not going to be any more shows the rest of the week. I am going to be on Christmas Day, and I'll put a post about when I'm going to be on the Zoom call, and we're going to talk about connection and really be connected with people. It's a 12-hour Jolly Gone Wild, which I would imagine is going to become an annual type thing, where if you're alone for Christmas, you can join in on the Zoom because we're not traveling right now. There's so many things going on, and our world is turned upside down and has been for a long, long time. And so I am encourage you to understand that we are all connected. We're connected, and if nothing else, if COVID doesn't prove anything else, it proves that we are connected. Because what happens is that I was in California. I I drive in one day to Utah. I'm standing in line at the grocery store, and a lady could have been on a plane from China, Italy, or anywhere else around the world, standing 6 feet away from me, and the wind blowing, and I can smell every breath of her perfume. We are all connected. We are all one. There is no private good. What's good for me is good for all. What's good for you is good for all. And I highly encourage you to understand that we are connected through viruses, bacteria, fungus, and all those type of things. And we're also connected, spiritually. We're connected with we can put vibrations in the world. Have you ever done this? Have you ever thought about somebody and they call you, send you a text message minutes later? How do you think they were thinking about you at the same time? Or maybe they got the message that you were thinking about them. We are all one. And we're all one, connected physically and emotionally and spiritually, and through this law of vibration, which is a primary law. The law of attraction is a secondary law. Law of vibration is the primary law. And we put those things out in the world, we get those vibrations back. So I just want to encourage everybody to have a happy holiday. Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and your family. And just understand that you know love is more important, and kindness is more important, and peace. My friend Malia Brown, she's amplifying peace in the world, is more important now than any other time in the world. And it's super, super important. And so, Elaine, I'll send you a message. um, and so we can connect there. And so, Michael, we can maybe connect after the show. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up right here, folks. Thanks for being here on this show, this episode. I didn't do a lot of marketing for this show. I just wanted it to be, authentic, and I wanted everybody to understand that even someone who focuses on this as much as me has a different starting point than everybody, and that we can push through this. You can find your way, and you can get to your best self through breaking generational cycles. That's how you find your best self, right? I don't eat the same way as my parents. I don't make money the same way as my parents, right? There's all these things that are my grandparents or any of those type of ways, or those people, right? So you can, and I'm not saying anything negative about any of those things, but we are passed down generational cycles and habits and beliefs, and we can alter those and can change those, and we can strip those away and put things that are best for you based off the way that you're made, right? And really fix those things. So I encourage you to tune in on next week as we have more shows here on the Modern Longevitarian on It's My Friday. My name is Scott Stanfield, and I want to say cheers and happy holidays. It's time to roll the credits.